Yes, you are now listening to the sounds of Sports Reports is Ordered. Right here, 2-5. Over in Jersey, you got the one and only Mr. Logical. Today is August 14th. And we're going to talk to you about the NFC West. How will the West be won? You know, you can't have preseason without some takes. Mr. Logical has given it to me that he's got the takes. So we're going to get into this preseason thing, see what we can figure out, and figure out why Russell Wilson still sucks. I mean, he still looks bad. You know, he's going to get better, but he just doesn't look right now. But Mr. Logical, football is back.
It's back, baby. Don't call me on Sunday. Don't call me on Thursday. I'm not picking nobody up from the airport on Mondays. I'm in the house. Unless the Falcons lose, you got me. If the Falcons lose at the 4 o'clock, that 1 o'clock game they lose, you got me for the rest of the day. I'm not watching no football.
Yo,
because they always break my heart when they lose. So it's like I'm yelling at the TV. That was kind of part of the reason we started doing the podcast. I'm like, listen, how am I sitting on my couch yelling about what you should do as a coach, and you don't do it? And I was like, if you just would have called the timeout, I got people to the sideline, and they figured out, hey, yo, can we get this yard? We get this yard, we end the game. Blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, you know what? Might as well talk about this with a camera in my face.
See, I was mad because I was like, checking everything out, watching the lay of the land. And, Sam Howell threw a nice pass to Jahan Dotson that he bobbled. He caught it, ran it in for the touchdown and everything, but he bobbled it a little bit. And my whole takeaway, instead of being like, touchdown, I was like, that's why Bieniemy yelling at y'all now. I was just like, catch the ball the first time.
I was watching Colin Cowherd a little earlier, and he had a guy, like a beat reporter, who was at the practice where the report came out afterwards that he was yelling. And the guy was like, listen, I was at those practices for 2 days. He was yelling for a reason.
I mean,
he was saying, yelling. He was like, yo, run the extra 20 yards on you. You catch a little route and you run, guys jog it out. He's like, run the whole 20. Go through the whole thing. Real game motion. I think he just was yelling at everyone. Sometimes we've seen Hard Knocks. We've seen the behind the scenes stuff. And some of these veterans, they talk about it. Like Ray Lewis will talk about it. Listen, I don't do certain things in practice. They said Ray Lewis is out there in flip-flops in a live drill just to get the feeling and the layout of how the play was going to look, but he wasn't moving because he's just standing there in flip-flops. Everybody else is in pads. He just was like, all right, cool, I'm going to be here. All right, cool, y'all run it. And then they set up the next play. He would get in his spot in his flip-flops. He just kind of look around like, all right. Ben Roethlisberger didn't practice his last couple of years. So you get some guys in there, they got 4, 5, 6 years in the league. They figured they call themselves on the upper echelon veteran. And he's like, yo, run that extra 20 yards. And he's like, what?
Well, I had to tell an airman one time, I'm not proud of myself, but, we are human. And, I told him, I said, look, when Steve Kerr is late to practice, he going to run some laps. When Michael Jordan late to practice, I'm going to make sure the family okay. I'm going to make sure his car is make sure, the engine is running, all that good stuff like that. So I say that to say, one of the knocks on Randy Moss was, hey, you can always tell if the play ain't going to him because he half-asses it or he don't even appear to block or anything. And I'm like, you know what? He could do that. He's Randy Moss, but Paris Campbell can't do that.
Can't do it.
Can't do it.
You better get your
ass out there and push somebody.
Christian Kirk can't do that.
What was it? The Bell South back in the day. You better reach out and touch someone.
Oh, I remember the Jimmy Johnson, Emmitt Smith one. It was like, what do you do if the 4th-string running back falls asleep in the meeting? We cut him. What happens if Emmitt Smith falls asleep? We nudge him.
Yeah, nudge him. Ask that man if he need a drink. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is.
You need a break from this.
I'm sorry. That's just how the human brain works.
Talent versus tolerance, baby. Talent versus tolerance.
Yes. So, continuing our series of NFL division breakdowns brings us to the NFC West, where the San Francisco 49ers are attempting to play positionless football. We got the positionless basketball in the NBA. So you got McCaffrey lining up wherever he want, Debo line up wherever he want. So the 49ers, they trying to do this thing. So, what's the word, man? They gonna win this division? Are they going to the NFC Championship game? Are you saying they going back to the Super Bowl? What they doing?
All I'm saying is this: we talk about a lot of sports, and we talk about front office moves, player transactions, player movements, reaches in the drafts, busts in the draft, steals in the draft, all that good stuff. Trey Lance, the fact that they gave up that many picks to move up to 3 to get Trey Lance when Justin Fields slipped to 13 when they could have got him at 12. Trey Lance, but Justin Fields does what San Francisco wants Trey Lance to do. So even from that draft evaluation process, that was my statement the whole time. It's like, why are you moving up to get Trey Lance when you have Justin Fields, who was a top quarterback out of high school? He went to Georgia, he went to Ohio State, he went to a national championship game. Yeah, he ran into this buzzsaw called Alabama, but you saw the way he threw the ball there. You saw the way he ran. You saw the way he was a team captain, a transfer student coming in as a team captain. It's like, okay, let's look at that. Trey Lance didn't play football for like a year when they drafted him. I was like, why are you making these moves? Luckily, they made other good defensive moves and they kept Jimmy Garoppolo because like nobody else really wanted him. But that's gonna be like a theme of the show. Like people talking about, like, can your guy play like Jimmy Garoppolo? You can win games. And that's what they had. They had Jimmy Garoppolo, so they were allowed to fall back on that. And then Brock Purdy just happened to be a flash in the pan. They're getting bailed out by the fact that the offense has so many playmakers that just do different things on the field. George Kittle, his ability you can't put a linebacker on him. You got to put a safety on him. Because if you put a linebacker on him, he's going to kill him. And if you don't put a good cover safety on him, he's going to kill him. Brandon Ayuk is probably one of the best route runners in the league. Like, there's plenty of highlights of him just having DBs falling over the place. And Debo Samuel is literally Debo. Like, his acumen is in his name. Christian McCaffrey he's a cheat code. So you have so many weapons, and then the Kyle Shanahan, Mike Shanahan offensive scheme, get the ball to playmakers quick. It's probably the simplest scheme, and I think it works. The problem is, we're going to get into the Trey Lance conversation later, but having Brock Purdy, if he's healthy, I think they could still win the division because they'll just do. You can't stop. You can't stop what their offense does if they go quick. If they go with the way they like to run it, with use check out of the backfield and everything else, you can't stop it. So that's my take on their offense. And defense is just, if you ever seen Fred Warner make a tackle, like you see him run Joey Bosa over or Nick Bosa, just try to make a tackle. It was like, yeah, he's different. And the whole linebacking core is like that. So it's just, I don't know if they have enough to like win the NFC, but the NFC West, I think they're a couple of games up at the end of the season.
And so I think that the team up north has been making some moves to challenge San Francisco. I'm still not necessarily sure if their offense can score on San Francisco consistently. But at the same time, I don't know if anybody's offense can score on San Francisco consistently.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about the Seattle Seahawks. So, they went out and they addressed some things that I felt like they needed to address. So, like, for example, they went out and got Jackson Smith and Jigba from Ohio State to come take over the slot duties. Now, with that being said, they had Tyler Lockett and they already had DJ Metcalf. So maybe you're thinking they didn't necessarily need another receiver. But I just think that him in the slot opens up even more for Lockett, especially as he comes along. Because the one hang up that I have with Seattle is, can I trust Geno Smith to do what he did again? Like I felt like
Yeah.
John Starks from the 30 for 30. I can't believe this dude just did this. You know what I'm saying? Like, so Geno Smith is obviously the X factor here. Seattle, I feel like we come into every year with questions about their offensive line because they do weird things with their offensive line, but I also
Like,
like,
not make it better. Yeah, that
yeah,
weird thing
yeah, 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 yeah.
where they don't get like the best player available when they can,
It's
stuff
like,
like
yo, we gonna take this backup and we gonna trust the process that in 4 years he's gonna
he's
be
gonna
one of
be
the best
good.
linemen
Yeah,
in the league. Yeah, and then they went and got Zach Charbonnet, from UCLA, formerly of Michigan fame, who I think offsets Kenneth Walker because Kenneth Walker is like, hand me the ball and I'm gonna go hit some people as if I'm on defense. But now Charbonnet gives you the pass catcher out of the backfield that they were lacking, because Rashad Penny could have been that, but he was never there. And now
yeah. They
he's
took him
in
in the first
Philly.
round. They took
Yeah.
him in the first round.
Yep. And now he's in Philly. So, so I think Charbonnet is going to be an even better possible pickup this year, not always, but for this season. He might even be better than what Jackson Smith and Jigba gives them because it just gives them that check down to look down to when Fred Warner is applying pressure or Bosa's coming off the edge. And then defensively, they lost Cody Barton to my Commanders. I've talked about that. They got Bobby Wagner back. Now, granted, he's probably not the same player that he was years ago, but he still got the brains. He could be
Yeah.
the architect of the defense.
The
He has the
brain makes you like
IQ.
they say your brain that makes you like a half second faster in a football game. Like just knowing like that ability, like you're like a half second to almost a second faster in your reaction time because you know where to be.
Right.
So like even if you're a little old, that's why like some of these older players like like I mean granted we get like legends like Tom Brady, but like a lot of these older guys like Brett Favre, he just knew okay I can get this ball into this window because I know where the defense is going to be because you just have years of these reps. You just see them because the defenses and stuff are not that different, and either the offenses. Most of these guys, like if you think about an offensive playbook, I mean, really, how many plays could it really be, and how many plays do you keep week in and week out? Because you keep
Right.
running a play week 1 through week 4, and it's like it's not working, you're gonna scrap it. So if you play a team in week 9 and they know like okay they stopped running this play because it doesn't work, and then you see that formation like okay this play doesn't work and this is why it doesn't work. That's what he gives you because he'll put somebody like yo get here and they'll tap the
Mm-hmm.
defensive tackle, slide over the plays coming backside or whatever the case may be. So I think that's a bonus. I like Jackson Smith and Jigma. According to the Ohio State reports and a lot of the Ohio State fan base, they said he was the best wide receiver in the room for like the last 3 or 4 years. To include Olave, to include Marvin Harrison Jr., it's like he was the guy. Like like I said, the whole wide receiver room looked at him like this dude is better than me.
It's true. And I mean, he was hurt last year. They could have probably used him in that Georgia game on that last drive, but but he was hurt
CJ
last
Stroud,
year.
shout out.
But also, they got Tariq Woolen, rookie corner from last year, going into year 2. So hopefully he takes another step forward.
But he had like 6 interceptions last
Yeah, he
year.
did. Yep, he did. And then they went and got a corner at number 5 from Illinois, Devin Witherspoon, to add to
That's the
Jamal.
big hitter.
Yeah, Jamal Adams coming back at some point this season. They went and got Julian Love, the leading tackler from the Giants, who I like a lot. And not only was he the leading tackler, he was the leading tackler by 28 tackles. You know what I mean? So you could argue that, he was a safety. Maybe he's tackling too much because the defense wasn't that good. I don't know. But we'll see. I like Julian Love, though. So,
I think he's a box safety. He's one of those guys that comes
yeah, he's like
down,
a
block.
hybrid guy. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So from that standpoint, I think Seattle has what it takes to win the division. I think San Francisco's schedule may be a little tough. I know they mostly play the same schedule because they're in the same division, but I'm big on how the games line up. So, for example, when I looked at Seattle, me and Mr. Logical talked about this before we came on. Seattle just contradicted my last sentence because weeks 12 through 15, they play San Francisco at Dallas, at San Francisco, and then Philly. So they could possibly lose all 4 of those. You know what I
and
mean?
that first San Francisco game is after 2 games in Florida. So they play Jacksonville and Tampa Bay
San
on
Francisco, you
Sun.
mean? Yeah.
So San Francisco game they play
Yeah.
Jacksonville and
Yeah.
they play Tampa Bay, and then Tampa Bay game is November 19th. That's a Sunday. Then they have to get to get back home and play San Francisco on Thanksgiving.
Right.
So you got 2 weeks in Florida. So you probably most West Coast teams stay. Like if you have an East Coast, teams from the East Coast go to California, they play the Rams and they play the 49ers, they'll just stay in California for the whole week and just play the next game. So more than likely, I'm guessing Seattle probably will stay in Florida and play those 2 games and then come home and not really come home because they got to prepare for a game on Thursday. That's a lot, especially if they
That's
let one
tough.
slip. If you let that Tampa Bay game slip, and now you got this 4 game stretch, so that can really get into you. And I don't know, Pete Carroll's not really known for like galvanizing his team late in the season. It's kind of like they kind of like the sledgehammer kind of team. That Legion of Boom,
Right.
they just hit you hard.
Right.
It wasn't a lot of strategy to it. They just played cover
Yeah,
three,
and got away with a whole lot of pass interference.
just super aggressive, and there wasn't a lot of adjustments. We talked about let Russ cook and stuff like that, but yeah, like Seattle. Like I know you're leaning. I think you're leaning Seattle.
Oh, I'm
Uh,
definitely leaning Seattle.
I'm leaning San Francisco just because, like I said, Mr. Logical, I'm simple. I just think that defense, running the ball, and above average quarterback play is a 10. That's a 10-win season in the NFL. NFL is difficult, but most
Mhm.
teams don't have all 3 of those consistently. Some teams have, like the Ravens, always had a good defense, but their offense, even with Lamar Jackson, wasn't like super dynamic. It was good. It
Right.
was a good run game, but the overall offense wasn't super dynamic. If you had a team like, when Tampa Bay, like they had Jameis Winston, they had all those players, Devontae David, Devin White. They had defensive players. They were drafting well. They just had Jameis Winston, who was like a turnover machine. So like that cost them. That would cost them games. So a team that could run the ball well, strong defense, above average quarterback play, and especially in a division where 2 teams could potentially just give you 4 wins.
So these are my 3 things that the division are going to come down to. Like these are the 3 questions that I have that are going to determine who wins this division. So one, how healthy is Brock Purdy's arm? Because if you got to play Sam Darnold or Trey Lance, I'm eliminating you just off of GP. So that's first and foremost. Second of all, can McCaffrey stay healthy? Because we've all seen that he tends to miss some games. I don't want to project it because you hate to do that, but he just doesn't play full seasons a lot.
What's
He
what's
does,
my catchphrase?
you know, what's your
A lot of,
catchphrase?
lot of, lot of soft tissue
Like
injuries.
yeah, soft tissue. There you
A
go.
lot of soft tissue injuries for McCaffrey. Yeah.
And then my third question is, which one of y'all gonna sweep the Rams? You know what I mean? That's the third question because I ended up both 10-7. You know what I mean? But giving it to Seattle based off division record because they're both going to sweep the Cardinals. I figured they're going to, in my mind, they're going to split with each other. So which one of y'all can sweep the Rams?
And that's going to be the
Now,
delineating
it's usually the
factor.
49ers. The 49ers are usually the ones that
The Ram
own the
killer
Rams. Yeah. And they all, they should have beat the Rams in that NFC Championship game, but my man dropped the interception.
dropped
You
a
know,
softball interception.
yeah. But now the Rams have Stafford coming back. They have Cooper Cup coming back. They don't got Odell Beckham coming back. They got Van Jefferson coming back. But then their defense ain't coming back. Jalen Ramsey's gone. They were a bad defense to begin with, coming out of last year. So, for the Rams, I'm not concerned about them winning the division. Like, they were 28th and against the run last year, 27th and giving up yards per carry. And this was a weird number. I don't know if it sounds as great as I thought it did when I first wrote it down, but 21.6 of the first percent of the first downs that the Rams gave up last year came off of the run. And you think, like, okay, rushing numbers, whatever, they were 22nd in pass yards allowed too, as far as,
It could
stopping the
be.
pass.
It's going to be another rough season. Contemplating retirement for McVay, Aaron Donald,
And that was my other
Stafford.
question about them. Is he going to take his ball and go home? Because he's already threatened it twice.
Yeah. So I think it's going to be a tough year because they didn't they didn't retool their team post Super Bowl. We all know that when a team wins the Super Bowl, guys either become highly paid free agents
Mm-hmm.
or they become highly paid re-signees,
Yeah.
or they become somewhat of a distraction to the point where you don't want to redo contracts, or you redo somebody else's contract, a la Aaron Donald, and then now you don't have enough money to pay Jalen Ramsey, so you deal into Miami and you get some picks, but you haven't done well with those picks. I mean, in the was it the parade they said F those picks, and all of a sudden now you're trading away the picks. So I just think that the coach combo and the upper management, the front office team philosophy, I don't think is lining up, because you're not going to be able to pay. They weren't able to pay their best player. I don't know how much money they had available to pay Von Miller. I know Buffalo gave him like $120 million. I don't know if they had that money in the bag, but not having these assets is like, you had a good run. It's like
Right.
going to Vegas. You got $2,000 in your bank account. And you go to Vegas. You flying there from Thursday to Monday, and you had a ball Thursday and Friday. Now Saturday, you're like, all right, we're going out, but we're not buying bottles tonight, because I'm
Right.
already
Right.
I'm
Right.
already 1,100 into my
Yeah.
2,000,
Tonight.
bro.
Tonight we gonna
And we
have a
still got
Heineken.
yeah, we still got to make it to Monday. So I think that's where Los Angeles is right now. Like, yo,
Yeah.
we got like $900 left. We still got 3 nights of partying. We had, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? So it's like, I think they're at that point where it's like, it could be a rough season, on top of the fact that you have a quarterback. Matthew Stafford's a good quarterback, but he's not known for being just this dynamic game changer. He's always had the cannon. He's had a pretty decent team around him. Even those years in Detroit,
But he'll give you some chances. Like as
he'll
far as the defense, he'll give you some
yeah,
chances.
he gonna Brett Favre you two in your chest.
Like I said, he
It's gonna
threw
be
the
hard.
he threw the pick that should have been against San Francisco. We remember the Tampa playoff game before that where he hit Cooper Cup. So it's like feast or famine a lot of times with him. As I like to call it, Sammy Sosa syndrome.
And
It's
then
either going to be
he
a home
came
run or a
off the
strikeout.
injury. Yeah, so
But
it's gonna be tough. And like I said, the fact that you have Stafford, who is he's a retirement eligible. I think he's had a retirement eligible career. Like, he's like, all right, I got the chip, I have the numbers, I have the claim, the name,
yeah, some
the
people
shoulder cannon,
mistakenly
all of
say
that
he's a
stuff.
Hall of Famer, but you know what I
Some
mean?
people are prematurely
And he
putting him in the
might
Hall of
be,
Fame.
you know what I mean? He might
I
be.
mean,
I don't think he
yeah,
is, but he might be.
yeah, we'll have that topic,
You know what I mean?
eventually, because somebody's gonna try to say he's gonna get in. But
But here you go, right? Shout out to Woody Page from Around the Horn. You gotta look at the schedule. So as I look at this, they start out at Seattle, San Francisco week 2, at Cincinnati week 3. So if that wasn't tough enough, you come down to October 22nd, they go Steelers at Cowboys, and then if you want to throw at Lambeau in there because it's Lambeau, and then Seattle again. And then you come down to the last 3 games of the season. They're playing the Saints, who could be playing for the division,
true.
at the Giants, who could be playing for a playoff spot, for a wild card spot. And then they close at San Francisco, who, if my prediction is correct, is going to be fighting for the division with Seattle. So, like, just looking at those stretches right there, you're possibly looking at 0-3 to start the season. 1-2 at best. I'll let you decide which one of those they're going to win. The Pittsburgh Cowboy thing, that could be a 0-2 stretch. And then this last stretch that I just pointed out, maybe they clip the Giants, maybe they clip the Saints, maybe they could go 2-1 in that stretch, but it's
Yeah, but
hard.
they one flex they do have is their Philadelphia Cardinals, the Philly, Arizona, Pittsburgh, 3 weeks. That's 3 home games.
Right, right.
October 8th, 15th, and
And then
22nd.
and they got
So
Indianapolis
those are
before
two cold
Philly.
weather teams, and you get them at home in October, versus like, if those games were November 8th, and you're in Pennsylvania in November, it could be 25 degrees, one of those off days. So
Right.
having those 3 games at home, at least you have that at
Yeah, and
home
then
on a
you got
carpet,
Indianapolis before that in the dome.
in
So,
the
you know what I mean?
dome,
So you
rookie
could
quarterback, rookie head coach. So I mean,
maybe, if everything breaks right, you could go 3-1 in that stretch. I don't think they're beating Philly, but maybe you could go 3-1 in that stretch. And who knows? Philly traveling. Philly's got to lose somewhere. They're not going to go 19-0 or anything like that. So I mean, yeah, but I mean, I ended up on 7-10. With the Rams, I just don't think that their defense is equipped, to stop anybody. Like Aaron Donald's going to get his pressure, but
He's gonna get
outside of
double
that,
teams and checked and chipped by the running back
but without
every single
Jalen
play.
Ramsey in the back, you know what I mean? Like I just think that they lost a lot on defense. They lost Bobby Wagner, who we just talked about, back to Seattle. So, I just don't think that the Rams are going to stop anybody. Like we forget the year that they played the Patriots in the Super Bowl. We forget they had that game on Monday night against Kansas City.
The 51-54 game.
Yeah, they had that game. You know what I
Yo,
mean?
that
So
was up
outside of
there with
Aaron,
that Texas USC Rose Bowl for like greatest games I've watched.
yeah, so outside of Aaron Donald, you know what I mean? You could argue, and I know Jalen Ramsey is good, slightly overrated, coming from a Florida State fan, but slightly overrated,
I
but
was like ranked third overall on the of cornerbacks last year. Like
I think
Pro
he's
Football Focus.
I think that he's one of those dudes that gets away with the Legion of Boom stuff. Like he's allowed to be a little extra physical than most corners are allowed to be.
If
And
he
I
ain't
think
cheating,
that
he ain't
helps him
crying.
out because if you remember that playoff game that I've referenced, we saw what Mike Adams did to him. Or Mike Evans. We saw what Mike
Yeah,
Evans did to him. But, neither here nor there. Point being, Aaron Donald is there and a whole lot of nobody else. And then I would like to plea with the Arizona Cardinals. Don't you put Kyler Murray on that field this year. Like, I'm not telling you to tank. I'm not telling you to tank. But even with Kyler Murray, you're probably 5-12 at best. D Hop's gone. Murphy's gone on defense. So, you aren't a very good team to begin with. You're breaking in a new coach that's a defensive coach anyway, because they got Jonathan Gannon from Philly. So, you probably need a year for him and Kyler to just have a conversation and figure out what their plan is. Oh, and by the way, I forgot to mention earlier. So my apologies, I forgot to mention. Another positive for San Francisco that I do like for them is I know a lot of people probably want to make a big deal out of D'Amico Ryans being gone, but you know who their defensive coordinator is now?
too.
Steve Wilkes.
So they're good.
So ain't much of a downgrade there. You know what I mean? Like I think D'Amico Ryans I think they're different coordinators.
I think the 49ers are they're just this right now, even with the Trey Lance deal from a few years back, they still look like the smartest.
Yeah,
They look like they made the smartest move in the division because ultimately, the football schedule and the season is all set up for simply win your division. Having the number one seed is nice, but two, you don't get a bye. So if you're not the number one seed, you're fine because 2 through 7 are playing on that first weekend of the playoffs anyway. So being 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7, you just need to be ready to play. So winning your division is probably the easiest way to, obviously get 1, 2, 3, or 4. But that's your main focus. So I think they keep putting themselves in a position where they can win their division. They are equipped to beat the teams in their division. And with Arizona, you talked about don't put Kyler Murray on the field. We already seen how teams are willing to kind of just bypass contract extensions and things of that nature. I think Arizona has a chance or opportunity, I don't know what word you want to use, or possibility to be this 2-15, 3-14 team, number one pick, Caleb Williams or Drake May out of North Carolina, staring you in the face at 1, 2, 1 or 2. You might be in a position where Gannon may not. He may have that in Nathaniel Hackett where he might not be a good coach. It might be a situation where he was a defensive coordinator of probably one of the most stacked defensive teams in the NFC last year in the Philadelphia Eagles. And every play you call looks good when you have Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Jordan Davis, Darius Slade, James Bradbury. Like when you have all these guys, like, oh yeah,
yeah.
let's just go,
And the
let's
fans
go in
still wanted
all
him
out
out of
blitz.
there. The
Yeah,
fans still wanted him out of there.
all out blitz. Oh look what a great call. Of course it's a great call
Yeah,
when
they
you
had
have
Gardner back
two
there.
two lockdown corners. Your nickel corner was the lockdown corners. Like, yeah, it looks great. So I'm always weary of a guy who gets a job off of essentially off the backs of like an elite defense. We saw it with Staley going to the Chargers. We'll talk about the AFC West later. He had that Super Bowl caliber Los Angeles Rams defense, and now we're wondering why he can't win 11 games in at the other team in that same building. So I think that's one thing. So you might be in a situation where you are having conversation with Kyler Murray and his agent throughout the season about, does he want to go back and play for a team in Texas? Or does he want to go play for somebody else?
What
Because
team would that be?
I don't know. Houston might do something crazy. I know Dak's contract is kind of crazy. They might want to move off of him if they don't go 12-5 and win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that's what
You
I was
never
trying to
know.
get you to say.
You never know. Like
load the hot take cannon.
I mean, listen, if it works out, just remember August 14th. I said it, but I mean, I just don't know if Kyler's done enough to say he's the guy anyway. And he had a new coach, new GM. They didn't draft him, and he's already kind of aloof with the people who drafted him and paid him.
Right.
So how is he going to be with the people who replaced those people when everyone knows they can go 0-17 and no one would think differently? No one would be like, you know what? We really thought we had a shot this year. So I don't know if they're going to get run off, but if we could go and get the first overall pick, and if Caleb Williams puts in another Heisman Trophy season, USC move into, the Big Ten and making those kind of moves. So it's like, you never know. So Arizona can be terrible, and it
they'll
won't
be
hurt
fine.
their future. It won't hurt their future. They're going to give away some wins, basically anybody who comes through there and plays them. So with them, like I said, 2-15, 3-14 is not out of the realm of possibility. I don't think they have any defensive prowess at all. Like I don't think they have any weaponry anywhere. They might be able to beat the
They still got Baker.
Arizona State.
They still got Baker, on defense, but it's really slim.
Yeah, he's too far. He's too far from the ball. Like you can just throw it away from him.
I like Rondale Moore on offense, so maybe him and Colt McCoy will have some kind of rapport.
It's tough, like I said, and we'll talk about the preseason like that. The drop off from the starting quarterback and the starting offensive line to the backup offensive line and backup quarterback, it's like night and day.
See, and that was where I don't want to overreact, because as I was going back and looking at this, we'll, like you said, we'll get into I guess we can go ahead and transition because I ain't got much else on the Cardinals. But but yeah, San Francisco's offensive line, it was one preseason game, so I don't want to do it. But their offensive line didn't look that great. But beyond that, I'm gonna tee you up real quick because I know you want to get to it. So, cool out with the Trey Lance thing. I saw this dude, and all my takeaway from Trey Lance the other day was black must be his favorite color because he tried to throw the ball to the Raiders over and over again.
I love Vegas, but he was really trying to give out souvenirs. It was the thing that I take from Trey Lance. I'm pretty sure people are going to don't overreact. There's some stuff you could take away from a preseason game. Like that's why they have them. So coaches are looking at who knows the play, who knows where to be, special teams, who's hustling, who is making the blocks. Can your kicker kick? Do you have a long snapper? Or you have a battle for this position? So there's takeaways. People can't be like, oh, don't read too much into it. There's a reason they're playing. Like there's an evaluation process that's going into it. Yes, it is a glorified tryout, and then it's a glorified test piece. I saw a lot of teams going for it on 4th and 6 and 4th and 11 with their
they're just going to have to play him against some ones.
It's just with Trey Lance. It's the same thing I said with Justin Fields. Whatever the read is, you got to trust it and let the ball go, because you're not doing yourself any favors by holding on to the ball because you don't have that much time. If you roll out, if you have a play where you roll out to the right, you're strong because you're right-handed, you're athletic, and you get a deep rollout, maybe a guard and a tackle pull, and you got a couple extra blockers, and you have a deep over route or a go route or something underneath, and you can kind of look, and then throw, you got it. But when you got a 3, 5, 7, 5-step drop, you don't have pump fake options. You got to hit your first read, and it was like he pumped it, and then try to come like you can't. It's it. If you don't hit that first read when you're already that far in your
Just
drop,
take off.
you don't have enough time to get to your second and third read. If you've already pumped, if you looked and it wasn't there, and then you transition, like yeah, you could get through all three in those 4 seconds. But if you pump, like if you're pumping, then you got to turn again. Like that defensive tackle is going to be in your lap, and
Yeah,
that's what it
just
was.
yeah.
And he just was like, it just looked like he was uncomfortable with just not necessarily the play calls, but just the position. Like you can watch, like I watched the third string quarterback from Kansas City. I can't remember his name, but he had a play that kind of looked like Mahomes. He scrambled a little bit, made a guy miss, and then threw like a dart to a tight end that was running across the back of the line. Mahomes and Kelsey were going crazy on the sideline. But even in that scramble, he looked like, okay, this one going with the ball. The guy out of Jacksonville that, you know, broke out of like a couple of sacks and had his head up when the dude was around his waist and threw the touchdown pass. Even though he's a third string quarterback, you can tell that he was in the pocket playing quarterback, whereas Trey Lance is in the pocket as an athlete. He's not a quarterback. Like even that throw that got was supposed to be intercepted that got tipped in the air and caught by the tight end, the dude he was throwing the ball to was covered. Like that, I don't like. I'm pretty sure that other tight end was probably open on the inside, and he's trying to throw it to the back. It's like you rolled and stopped and tried to throw it back to the right. Like you're rolling to the left. The play wasn't for you to try to throw it in the middle of the field. Like no one rolls and then throws it back to the middle of the field. So it's like, why are you making those kind of plays? And then Sam Darnold, like I don't want to bash it because like these guys are NFL
No,
talent.
no, no, no. Like mental health is a real thing, and I take it easy on Sam Darnold since he see ghost.
See goes.
Yeah, I take
He should have never said that.
no slander.
He should have said, "Hey, those guys are really moving well. Like those guys are really getting the spots." He should have said something else with the microphone near you. Not like that's worse. He should have just said, "Hey, bench me, coach. I can't do it."
Hey,
Like, that
no,
would
I
have been
mean no
better than I'm seeing
disrespect,
ghosts.
no disrespect to the Patriots defense. But if you're gonna see ghosts, can it at least be Aaron Donald or Chris Jones or something?
Nah, like the Patriot defense. The Patriot defense is legit. Like
It
it's
is,
legit.
but I'm just
And
saying.
it even last year was like legit. But with Trey Lance, I think it's a matter of he might not be the guy. And the draft picks that you gave up to move up to get him, it hasn't hurt you. Like you've been, a top tier teams have still been picking. You went to the NFC Championship last year. You went the season before with Jimmy Garoppolo. You went to the Super Bowl before. Like so, they're a perennial playoff team, and you make deep runs. Yes, you want to win. You want to win it all. I get that, but you might need to just go ahead and pull the plug on Trey Lance because if I'm starting Brock Purdy, I'm gonna have Sam Darnold as a backup just because he has games. He's played 50 or 60 games. So that in and of itself, I know he'll slide in the pocket. He might not make all the great throws, but I know he'll slide, he'll hit the check down. He might not go out there and light up for 320 yards, 2, 3 touchdowns a week. But if I can keep Purdy upright, if the elbow, the UCL, whatever injury he had, that surgery and everything's copacetic, then I'd rather keep Sam Darnold as a backup because what am I doing with a rookie or essentially a third year player that I have to develop while I have a second year starter like that? That's like you can't do both.
Right.
Like you can have your rookie starter and your veteran backup, but at that point, there's nothing you could do with Trey Lance.
I ain't got enough time.
I don't have like you don't have the room. You don't have the room to make Trey Lance better during the season when you have a second year guy that you have to see can he play a game on the East Coast because he only played the one and he got injured. How was he going to play in the stretch here? Let's check out San Francisco's schedule. All right, so they got a stretch where they're at the Steelers, at the Rams, home for the Giants, home for Cardinals, home for the Cowboys, at the Browns. So last year he played pretty much all of his games in California, one in Nevada, and then the
Mm-hmm.
one game in Pennsylvania. So it was like, do you really know? Can this guy play in a different kind of weather? Can he play in this cold East Coast weather? So you got a game at
I mean, to be fair, he did play his college in Ames, Iowa.
true, but like, can you play with NFL speed? Can you
Right.
throw that ball in the
Right.
cold in Washington on December 17th?
Right.
It's going to be cold in that harbor. Like there's nothing but water out here, so it's going to be nice and cold when he comes and plays that game. So having those questions with Brock Purdy, you can't also have those questions with Trey Lance. So that's one preseason takeaway. Another thing is like we talk about you did the AFC West preview. You talk about Denver. I watched them. I don't know if that relationship between Sean Payton and his ego and Russell Wilson and his ego, I don't know if the building's big enough. And one guy is a $20 million coach, and his contract's guaranteed. So Russell Wilson has this contract extension. I think he's like somewhere like 255.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty sure there's some wiggle room where he doesn't get the whole 255. Like they can move off of him. He probably got like 130, 140 guarantee, something like that, maybe somewhere in that range. I think you can move off of him because if you get rid of Sean Payton, you're still cutting that check.
John Gruden, shout out.
And if you're getting 20 million a year, he going right back to Fox and getting his Fox check and his Condoleezza Rice check. Because I think she's part of the Denver ownership group. So like I don't know if that marriage is going to work. Like I said, I just stick to egos because his ego made him say what he said about the front office and Nathaniel Hackett.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have to say that. He didn't have to say it was the worst coaching job ever. Like it wasn't necessary. It was obvious.
He definitely made me. He definitely made me more interested in that Denver Jets matchup. That epic matchup. But I know you think that you know what I'm going to say, but I promise you don't know what I'm going to say.
If it's something positive, I don't believe it.
So the Patriots need to go on and stop playing and get Bailey Zappi up in there. 12 for 14. I know it's preseason, but he just seems to have this thing where he comes into the game and the team reacts.
Mike goes to Western Kentucky University, yo.
That's why you don't know that's why you don't know what I'm about to say. So you got to be patient. So when Bailey Zappi comes into the game, and we saw it Monday night against the Bears last year, when he comes into the game, he just provides a certain spark. Like he's got that Ginobili to him. He's not going to shoot you up. He's not going to Steph Curry this thing. He's not going to defend you up, but he just brings something. But this is the part that he didn't know I was going to say. But you could do that with Malik Cunningham and add some running touch to your offense. So the Patriots got Malik Cunningham from Louisville, who threw for more yards than Lamar Jackson at Louisville and all that stuff like that. But he's playing receiver. And he's made some electrifying plays, but he is a quarterback. So I think, we already heard the rumors about Mac Jones and Belichick not believing in Mac Jones. I don't believe in Mac Jones. The only person that believes in Mac Jones is Kyle Shanahan. So, as I look at this.
Yo, that was never going to happen. That was never going to happen.
I'm just saying.
I didn't believe that for 1 second. I was like, this is the ultimate NFL draft smoke and mirrors.
But as I look at this, much to Mr. Logical's surprise, Malik Cunningham could be the best quarterback on the roster, and the Patriots won't ever know it if they keep him at receiver. Because I think that at the very least, when I look at Bailey Zappi, he'll throw for some yards, but he has that Chad Pennington thing going on where I feel like I can throw it further than him. Whereas Malik Cunningham has a better arm. He has the legs to go with it. So I would say, he's better. He will be better than, say, Huntley from the Ravens.
The Pro
Bowl quarterback for the Ravens, Tyler Huntley. So I think that the Patriots might have a quarterback that they don't know about just yet. So I'm gonna watch the next preseason game, and I'll come back and we'll see what happens. But that was my takeaway from watching the Patriots, because my first takeaway was Mac Jones is not it, which I already knew anyway. But he just kind of confirmed what I had already thought.
Mac Jones is in a tough spot because
he's not good.
I think he just was surrounded by so much talent in Alabama that I think he thinks he's better than he is. Whereas you have a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo, who just basically just been he's been as good as whatever weapons were around him, and he's known like Jimmy Garoppolo is not a 5,000 yard guy, but
Right,
he's like,
right, right.
I can get this pass to Kittle. I'll throw this screen pass all day. I'll throw this touch pass to Debo. I'll do all of these things so I don't get hit because I'm always hurt. So like
Yeah.
Jimmy Garoppolo can kind of make your plays happen.
Yeah, like
I
well,
know we
like
talk about quarterbacks a lot, but like the Mac Jones was done in New
well,
England when he went when information got out that he was reaching out to outside people to get advice about what was going on in New England.
well, it was
Like we've all heard about the Patriot way. He went to school in Alabama. Imagine if Nick Saban heard that before the COVID year and that summer Mac Jones was out here working with Lincoln Riley or
right,
something like that.
right,
He wouldn't have saw the field. He would have had to give all his Alabama swag back, every key code. They would have changed on him. His locker would have been ripped out of the wall. Like so, he should have known better than that. So when information got
right.
out, I think that relationship is soiled.
So
And like I said, on top of the fact, I think I think he might just be. He might feel like he's better than he actually is.
right, so before people get it twisted and confused, I know that Mac Jones didn't play this weekend. I'm just saying that when I look at Bailey Zappi, I see things that Mac Jones is not. And when I look at Malik Cunningham, I see things that Mac Jones can't do. So as I was watching this, I just didn't see a future for him in New England. But then, you know, as I was looking at some preseason football, checking out some things, my next note that I wrote down here was Bryce Young is about to learn real quick what the life of Andrew Luck leads to because he was taking some hits. He didn't necessarily get sacked per se, but he was taking some hits that I don't think you want your quarterback to take, but especially
When he's 5'9",
a
199.
quarterback that's like an inch taller than me and probably less than 10 pounds more than me. You don't want that either. So, but as I look at it, I'm still kind of lost. I mean, I understand that they had to make the trade to get him, but like losing DJ Moore is just going to be so awful for him.
Especially when
As
I
a
saw you saw when they saw that play made at Chicago.
yeah, like and Justin Fields with his what was it, -6 air yards, -7 air yards. That's interesting, but
And the throw was bad.
and that's Justin Fields. You know what I mean? You see the potential, but then he does. There's just certain things that just don't add up. But
And
but
3 for 3.
but I think Bryce Young. I think Bryce Young will be okay long term. I just don't know if he's going to make it through this season behind that offensive line.
Well, like as far as like we said, we talked about this in our pre-meeting. Like, yeah, we don't break down offensive lines. Like, yeah, we're sports fans and we like to talk sports, and I think we break it down to the best of our analytical ability. I am not someone that's like, hey, this is what a guard is rated at. I can repeat what I read on Pro Football Focus or what I see in the NFL Top 100, or even what I see in the game. Like, hey, I watched Jake Matthews for the Falcons get beat X amount of times. Like, I can see that, but I don't know what if it's a stunt. Was he supposed to block the inside guy and the guard supposed to
Right.
pull and block the other guy? So I don't know exactly what the nuance of the position is, so I can't really go into it. But I do know, like we talk about this, that second tier offensive line against the ones of the other team, or even like the second and third string, the offense is so complicated. So these starting offense, like if you're starting quarterback at NFL, your confidence should never waver because you are an elite athlete at that position. If you're a starting offensive line, if you're a starting wide receiver, your your attributes are a few notches above the guy that's behind you. So you got to take that as it just from Sports Reports ordered, Mr. Logical and 2-5. We watch and we talk about this all the time. It's like it is incredible the drop from the starting quarterback to the backup quarterback and the starting, like even a champ, like we're talking about the Kansas City Chiefs when they played Tampa Bay in the Super Bowl. They lost an offensive lineman in the AFC Championship game, and they shuffled up a bunch of players. And Patrick Mahomes was running for his life in that Super Bowl that Tampa Bay won, simply because he had no time. And the time, it wasn't because he didn't have fast wide receivers. That's Tyreek Hill. So Tyreek can get to the spot. He didn't have enough time to get Tyreek Hill open. Like, that's how important your offensive line is, and having a top-notch offensive line. So some of these preseason games I watch, and teams are just like, we're just going to throw some guys out there. Like, I don't know who set up the San Francisco offensive line, but it seemed like somebody was in Trey Lance's lap all night. Baltimore, they played their Pro Bowl quarterback Huntley into the fourth quarter. Denver playing Russell Wilson into the second half, or like late into the second quarter. He's getting hit. So it just was like, I don't know why these guys are just rolling the dice, hoping that their concepts work. It's like, listen, man, you got to put the talent out there. If you're gonna put your franchise quarterback out there, you need to keep everybody out there ready to go.
You made me think while you were saying that. This isn't my next note, but it is on here. So, the word privilege gets tossed around a lot these days. I'm going to tell you about privilege. That's going to be Drew Lock. So, going off of that drop from first string to second string and so on and so forth. And I know when we started this show, I mentioned about, can Geno Smith do it again? I don't necessarily know the answer to that question, but I know Drew Lock can't do it once, because what I saw was Drew Lock call a play. They get it. They're about to come out the huddle, and Jackson Smith and Jigba, the rookie, says, "I'm not supposed to be there." This man called the wrong play and almost got to delay a game. He's not a rookie. You know what I mean? Like he's been in the league for some years now. I mean, not 10 years or anything.
Paying attention?
Hey, he better be paying attention, because Geno could go down at any moment.
He's a human. He's a human being.
Geno could go down at any moment. You know what I'm saying?
The Johnny Manziel documentary was on the other day, and I watched a couple of clips. But one clip that I did remember, it said that his iPod hours were 0.0 when he was in Cleveland. He did this. He was like, didn't watch any film. The Jamarcus Russell with the blank DVDs. You heard that story?
Yep.
So sometimes these guys are just like, sometimes it's just a job. It's literally just a job. And he's like, I'm not going to start. And when I do start, that's when I'll pay attention.
But like Johnny Manziel came into the league as he was already a superstar. So he probably had an overinflated thought of himself to begin with. Because we also heard your guy, Mike Vick, basically admit that the first 9 or 10 years of his career, he didn't look at a playbook or anything like that.
He's like, in Atlanta, he's like, I didn't know he's like, I wasn't allowed to audible. I didn't know the checkdowns. I just knew my athletic ability.
But we ain't talking about them. We talking about Drew Lock, who was on the bench behind people like the world famous Trevor Siemian. You know what I mean? You better get in that playbook. So, but my actual next note, and I guess it's a moot point now, because Dalvin Cook has signed with the New York Jets. But what I had wrote was, the Dolphins don't even need Dalvin Cook. They already got Jeff Wilson. They already got Mostert. And then they have Devin A-Chain, I believe is how you say it, from Texas A&M, who looked great during the preseason, even had a 38-yard kickoff return. And then Deuce Vaughn, unfortunately, over in Dallas, say that guy looked like he might just be the next Darren Sproles.
Yeah, he looked comfortable, and that's the thing, is like, looking at these preseason, we think back to like Victor Cruz, and we've seen the highlights of like, who's number 3? Like, is that a quarterback? Like, no, that's a wide receiver, and he caught the 3 touchdowns against the Jets, and it turned into a great career. So there's talent to be found, but you got guys that he fumbled the ball, like Turpin, he fumbled the ball in Dallas. Last year, he had the kickoff return for a touchdown, the punt return for a touchdown, essentially sealed his spot on the team. Now, think if he fumbled one of those kicks last year. Before the kickoff, say he fumbled the kickoff, he wouldn't even get the shot to return the punt. Now he's not on the team. So it's such a like, when people say preseason doesn't matter, it matters for a lot of guys who
it's a game of inches.
4, 5, and 6, fourth, fifth, sixth round draft picks, guys who didn't like if you're not getting paid more than like $10 million, you're expendable by according to probably most because there's a lot of guys like Dalvin Cook was supposed to get paid, and they're like, we get rid of him. So it's a lot of spots out there for guys to get, and one mistake here, one mistake there. Yeah, some guys are going to get more chances, like Trey Lance. We talked about that ad nauseum. They put a lot of draft picks on him. He's going to get more shots. I saw like a lot of quarterbacks who like journeymen who were playing against third stringers, and they just look so comfortable. And it's like, why doesn't that translate to when you get a start? Like a guy like Blau, who got a couple of starts in Detroit back in the day. Um, Danucci, he got a couple of starts in Dallas back in the day. And it doesn't look the same when they're playing against ones as when they're playing against a three. And I guess, like they said, the game slows down, you get better. But these preseason games, they do matter. I'm not going to take like the Ravens 24 game preseason win streak. I'm like, I don't care about any of that.
What?
But some of the plays where it's like, we got to see, did we draft the right guy? Is this guy, or do we have a steal? Mostly steals are probably like your defensive players, like linebackers that, you know, oh, he ran a 4.5 or 4.6, but you get him out there in pads, and it's like, oh, he was really watching film. He knows this, he's seen the screen coming. Because I saw a lot of guys making a lot of plays behind the line of scrimmage. Seen a couple of interceptions, like guys just reading the play. I'm like, okay. So these guys are really out there, and they're grinding, but everybody can't make the team.
How about that touchdown pass from Jordan Love to Dubes? How about that?
He might have learned something from Aaron. He might have learned something. And Matt LaFleur has a couple of years. He has 3 years experience dealing with Aaron, and just kind of dealing with adversity and dealing with the media and dealing with expectations. So maybe our preseason prediction of them, I mean, maybe the NFC North be a little bit more entertaining. Maybe Kirk Cousins comes back to, like, coin one of your phrases, comes back to the means, and they end up 8-9 because they don't get all those one possession,
and because
wins.
they don't have Dalvin Cook.
They don't have Dalvin Cook. Maybe Detroit. Detroit's like, we're good to go. They're probably not gonna play a lot of their starters in the preseason. And
well, they need to definitely play Jamison Williams. That was another one of my notes. Like,
well, he's gonna be suspended for the first 6 weeks.
I know, but he just doesn't look. He doesn't look like the player that they drafted. From the standpoint, obviously he had the injury, but the thought of the type of player that he is, the deep threat, the burner, and all that, like, just doesn't look like it right now.
Offensive players from Alabama haven't really, like, they just have a different. The offensive line in Alabama, coupled with the fact that Nick Saban kind of said, you know what, let me get some pro style offensive coordinators in here. When your quarterbacks, I mean, we saw some of Mac Jones' highlights, man. He would be the only dude behind the line of scrimmage after the snap. The whole offensive line, they get everybody at the line of scrimmage, and it's just Mac playing 7-on-7. And he had Devontae Smith and Michi and James. So it's like he just was just throwing the ball. Same thing with Bryce Young. He had a little bit more of a struggle, but struggle mightily is in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
So these guys they're just throwing these guys to, like, some of the most talented guys transfer. Like, if you are a talented wide receiver at Ohio State or Michigan and Alabama calls you, like, okay, I'm it. I'm the big league. So, like, you get transferred down to Alabama and you get out there and you make these big plays because of the way that the offensive line is set up. And their quarterbacks are good, smart quarterbacks. The guys always seem to be like a couple of years older maturity level, like the Alabama quarterbacks. They don't seem to make the same mistakes as other quarterbacks. They seem to handle tough coaching well. And I think Nick Saban does a good job of being hands off with the offense. And then he might bark on the defense, but he normally has a defensive coordinator that barks too. Like that, when he was like him and Will Muschamp were in LSU and they were coming up the sideline, they're both yelling. Like, there's no way any of the defensive players are hearing what you guys are both saying. But they were both, like, equally aggressive. I was like, okay, so I think he can become a little hands off. So, like, a lot of the players that you get out of Alabama are just good, smart, tough players, and that's why you keep them around. But they're not always as dynamic as their college highlights because of the nature of their team. The team is just stacked, but they're talented players. It doesn't translate because what they were doing down there is just, it's not normal. Like, for that level, it's a notch above what everybody else is doing.
And keeping it in the SEC, like the Colts might be better off just letting Anthony Richardson jump for 4 yards, versus throwing the ball. Like he got project written all over him.
Just they got enamored with the no ball tank top and all the throws.
And CJ Stroud didn't look much better, but you know, um, I think that he'll be fine, but it'll be tough because he has a defensive coach as well, defensive head coach as well. Whereas Anthony Richardson at least has the offensive head coach that came over from Philly, who worked with Jalen Hurts. So obviously he's bigger than Jalen Hurts, but we've seen him.
But did Jalen get better in the offseason working with a private coach, or did he get better because of the offensive
I
coordinator?
think honestly, truthfully, I think Jalen just got better because he's a winner. Like he's just that dude that puts in the work, regardless of who it was with.
Yeah,
He just puts in the work to become better. We'll see if Anthony Richardson can do that, but he definitely has tools, and he's bigger than Jalen Hurts, so theoretically, he has the ability to turn it around. I mean, it was just one preseason game. I don't want to
yeah.
overreact, but I mean, he's got the guy that was recommended by Philip Rivers to be the head coach. So, that's got to count for something.
I mean, he probably also recommended Jeff Saturday too.
Saying with
I
that
think
link
I
that
think I
LinkedIn
think
network.
teams are like I said, we talked about this with the Matt Ryan, Joe Flacco, that '08 draft. You don't have to start your rookie quarterback. You don't have to. Like I don't I'm not seeing the value in starting your rookie quarterback when you can see this person's not ready. Trevor
Right,
Lawrence looked like he was ready and he just needed some time.
right,
Uh, a guy like Kyler Murray, I don't know if he was ready. I mean, they took him, obviously, they drafted him number one overall. Baker Mayfield wasn't ready, and he sat. And when he sat for those games behind Tyrod Taylor, like that's why you have guys like Mike Lennon, Tyrod Taylor, Chase Daniel. Now, ironically, you have guys like Baker Mayfield is going to be one of those guys. Kurt Warner was a bridge quarterback for Eli Manning. Eli Manning was a bridge quarterback for Daniel Jones. So, like, you you might just need to pay your rookie quarterback. You got the cheaper scale because Matthew Stafford and Sam Bradford, all those guys got that big check. I think even okay, we always talk about Jamarcus Russell. I think Cam Newton got a big check as a number one overall pick. And then they, CBA argue, blah, 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 got it to where it's like a standard scale. They just kind of adjust, it goes up every few years, but it's not $50 million you cap to some guys ever play that you have to play Matthew Stafford. You got to
right,
put like I'm paying you 20 something $1 million. Okay, that's a lot, but I'm paying Case Keenum 7 million. Okay, so I got 27 million, 30 million in my quarterback position, but I'm gonna let my rookie hold his clipboard for 8 games. See what it looks like. See what it looks like when its team gets exotic. Because if you can't throw it into this preseason offense defense with this vanilla, like because teams aren't really showing you much. They might blitz a corner here and there, but everyone knows like it's basically a Pro Bowl defense. It's like we're gonna play this coverage, we're gonna do this man-to-man coverage, we're gonna play this zone coverage, maybe a few variations here and there. None of the exotic stuff. They don't want any of that on film yet. So if you're struggling throwing into that, what are you gonna do when all of a sudden Calais Campbell is dropped in the zone and you got two safeties coming up there? It's like I've never seen anything this ridiculous. A
right,
6'8" guy playing linebacker all of a sudden from the defensive tackle position because they're blitzing corners off the edge. And now you got to make your check down. Your slant routes normally the quickest or the tight end, but you got this big 6'8" guy. Like so when you don't have that time to sit on and hold a clipboard and watch Case Keenum work through that, sit there and watch a guy like Chase Daniel, Tyrod Taylor, like these guys, let these journeymen really teach your young quarterbacks. Because I think Jordan Love is going to be the example of it does work. Sit behind a guy. Granted, it was kind of tumultuous in the way Green Bay did it, but I think it might behoove some of these teams to just. I know Justin Herbert was like a flash in the pan, but every guy isn't 6'5", 230.
Well, that's why, like I've always said that, like Ryan and Flacco, more so Ryan, messed it up for everybody.
Change the mold. Come on, let's
Yeah.
get the positive in that.
Oh,
Change the
my
mold
bad,
of a
my
rookie
bad,
quarterback.
my bad.
I mean, his first NFL throw went for a touchdown. Shout out to ATL.
They came in, made the playoffs right away. Granted, Flacco had the Ravens defense, but they came in, made the playoffs right away, and it changed, I think, the trajectory of what people expected from rookie quarterbacks. Because if I remember correctly, it was either I always mix them up, so I apologize, but it was either Carson Palmer or John Kitna. Like one of them sat a year. I want to say it was Kitna, maybe.
Palmer sat behind Kitna.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, so he sat a year, and then he came in ready to throw darts, lead the Bengals to the playoffs until you know he got taken out.
His
But
ACL, yeah.
yeah, I'll just leave it at that. He got taken out. But so up until that point, like I think that was the standard almost, unless you were just surefire Peyton Manning type guy, like you're playing right away. But then once Ryan and Flacco came in, I think everybody just turned it into like, well, look, I drafted you number one. You're
And they
going to
were
get out
paying
on
him
this field,
$50 million
and
too.
they were paying him 50 million.
So you had
And
Stafford, I think it was Bradford, Stafford, Cam Newton. All those guys went back to back to back. I think you're mixing Javion Clowney as number one overall. But a lot of the quarterbacks that were getting drafted in those 2 or 3 years after Flacco and Ryan, it was like, well, we had the success with Flacco and Ryan making playoffs all those years in a row and bringing Atlanta back.
not realizing what they had around them.
And Atlanta was a solid team, so Matt Ryan definitely elevated. But he was one of those guys that he just made. He got
Right.
to his back foot and he made the throw. He just was a good young quarterback. He moved
Yeah.
well enough.
And that's why I told you my introduction to Matt Ryan was that Thursday night game against Virginia Tech, to throw across his chest,
Yeah,
so like that was what made me a Matt Ryan fan was that one play. I saw it. They were like number 2 in the country, like craziness, Boston College. But
yeah,
but that's where like when you look at it, you gotta these leagues are copycat leagues. They find something that works, and then everybody tries to maintain that same identity instead of
yeah.
playing to their own strengths. You know
But
what I mean?
they copy the wrong. They don't copy the concepts that are sustainable. Because if I can teach you a concept, like the format that we're using for this podcast is a concept that we can look right at the Odd Couple and say, this is how they do it. This is how they work. This is the personality traits. Granted, we're not. This isn't fraudulent, but this is like, okay, this is the setup, the screen, the backdrop, the conversation, the back and forth, not following the same path as what they're doing on TV. So it's a concept of how you can run a podcast and have this kind of conversation. So we followed that. I'm not up here trying to be Stephen A. Smith.
Right,
And that's what teams are doing. Instead of just looking at the concept of first take, they're trying to find a guy that acts like Stephen A. Smith.
right,
Instead of saying like, okay, we want a quarterback that can move, they are reaching for a guy that looks like Cam Newton in Indianapolis Colts. Instead of looking at a guy like, oh, well, say if Arizona drafted a small quarterback, we could do it too. Like, yeah, cool. Kyler Murray is a small quarterback and Baker Mayfield's a small quarterback, but Baker Mayfield's a pretty solid dude, and he was older. So he had like a grown man body when he got drafted. I think he was like 23, almost 24 when he got drafted. So that's a lot of years. Like you think about your own body from 20 to 24, like your ability to put on muscle. Bryce Young's still pretty young and he's not very thick. He's not like a thick body and short. He's a small body, but that's more the Kyler Murray. Like, oh, Kyler Murray got drafted. I'm like, yeah, but that's not the same.
right.
So if you look at the concept of draft a rookie quarterback, marry him to a good coach, have him sit behind someone. Kansas City did that. They drafted Patrick Mahomes. They had him sit behind Alex Smith, and it worked out. Chicago drafted Mitchell Trubisky and essentially threw him right in there and then benched him and tried to put him back in and didn't have him with the right coach. And he ended up now he went to Buffalo for a year, then he went to Pittsburgh. Deshaun Watson was in Houston. Maybe some other things transpired in Houston that got him out there ready to go before the allegations came out because they went with the concept, oh, we getting this young athletic quarterback. Let's start him right away. Like, no, let's get him behind somebody. Kansas City, granted, yes, they are the anomaly because Patrick Mahomes is phenomenal. But I'm pretty sure he was phenomenal that whole year at practice. Like he was making those same throws, and people could see the whip and how far he was throwing the ball in practice. But they stayed with Alex Smith. They gave him the whole year. They made the playoffs, and then they're like, "All right, Alex, you can go to Washington. We're gonna start this guy
Well, he had
second
to
year."
watch, because like even as we take this podcast journey, I've been watching sports for years, like my whole life basically. But when I was watching March Madness that just passed, like it was just different. Like, so instead of me being like, oh, great shot, and the way that he set the screen and came off of it, I was sitting there like, so the defender decided to hedge, or like, it was like just all this different stuff. Like, or like you're watching it more intently. Whereas like when you're sitting at work or whatever, you're like, yo,
You're deliberately picking up
yeah,
information
like
that
like
can
you're
be
like
used later.
you're like Steph hit 8 threes. Like he do that all the time. But like, you know what I mean?
You're picking up words, you're picking up catchphrases, you're picking up,
Yeah,
like even the music we picked. Like I mean, we workshopped this name. We tried a bunch of different names out. So like you're constantly working at the craft by like looking at other people who are doing it properly. And it seems like the NFL is just winging it. They're just kind of
yeah.
hoping it
They
works
just they
out.
just they just see somebody that had success. Like I'm sure like somebody somewhere said, we gotta find our Patrick Mahomes. And I'm like, yo, they only come around about once every 30.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah, you
mean?
get
So
yeah. It's not a thing that happens a lot.
yeah, like you know what I
I think
mean? Like,
when people looked at Vic and they saw the athleticism, it's like, yeah, but that is not what you need. Like, you don't need to get another guy. If Lamar Jackson's in Baltimore, he's an outstanding quarterback, MVP. But if you're drafting a quarterback next year, you don't need a guy like Lamar Jackson. I'm not
right.
saying he's not a great player, but you don't need to pass over a guy because you want the guy that looks like Lamar Jackson. If your offense doesn't work with Lamar Jackson, or if you don't have a lot of rollouts built into your offense, you don't have quarterback keepers built into your offense, then like if you drafted Tom Brady and your offense was built for Lamar Jackson, that wouldn't make any sense. So it's the same thing
Right,
if you
right.
had, like, if you're New England, like you say, like Malik Cunningham, I don't think New England has the offensive even desire. I don't think Bill Belichick has a desire to have a quarterback that moves a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I think because even with Cam Newton, they tried it and they got stuffed at the goal line. So then, or he'd fumble, or just like it was like, you know what, this isn't what I do as a coach. Like he was available. You thought they had something. They thought they had a diamond in the rough, but it just didn't work out because like this doesn't fit our concept. So you
Oh
went and
yeah,
got
and
Mac Jones, and Mac Jones fits their concept. It's just that he probably felt like I don't blame him for not wanting Matt Patricia calling plays because it was one
yeah.
game where they just kept throwing bubble screens on each side of the field like every drive. And he was like, that's basically just another run play. Like, give me a play where I can stretch the defense.
And speaking of New England, shout out to the Patriots for giving out a contract to Zeke Elliott.
6 million.
1 year, 6 million. Dalvin Cook got 1 year, 8.6.
So these two dudes got 6 and 8.6 for teams they never played for, but the Giants can only give Saquon Barkley 10.2.
And
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 then
oh by the
LA gave
way,
him 9-8 and Austin Eckler.
Josh Jacobs is still out there.
He didn't sign it,
No, this is a holdout, baby. He's the one that
but it's
stuck
nothing
to
they
the
can
guns.
do.
I know, but and then there's a name I had in my head. Now it's slipping me now. But yeah, he's out there, so we'll see what happens with him out in
Kareem Hunt's still
Vegas.
out there.
Yep, Kareem Hunt. That wasn't where I was going, but it was another starter, I believe. Oh, Jonathan Taylor, reported now. Like I know he had the issue with the Colts. I mean, he's under contract anyway, so
Yeah,
you
dudes have
know,
no leverage.
you
They
know
have
they
no
have
leverage.
you have no leverage. CBA is too far away anyway, so
Get some endorsement deals, get some investment deals, get some stock options, and like another league's team if you can, like maybe a soccer team. A lot of people are doing that. But right now, you guys don't have any leverage as far as the running back position goes. But like
Mhm.
I like the fact that Zeke got his money. I think New England used him well because I think New England would do the same. Like Bill Belichick kind of I won't say coined the phrase, but he was like, "Don't tell me what a guy can't do. Tell me what he can do." Like, well, Zeke can't carry the ball for you 22 times a game. Like, can I get 8 carries inside the 15 though?
And he could block.
Can he block? Can I get him in on 3rd and 2? Can he give me 3 yards? Cool. I'll take that. I'll get my drive going. Give me my drive. I need 10 play drives. Can I get a running back in there that's going to secure the ball and get me scoring range? That's all you need. You need points.
Yeah, and
You need to
like
control
I
the
was
clock.
thinking about it because we were talking the other day about Denver and how if they had just averaged, like 20
Like
points or
seven,
something,
like, I think it's like 19 points.
yeah, they would have
They
been
would have been like 12
a
and
Super
5,
Bowl
stuff like that.
contender.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about that today. Like, like I was talking to somebody and I was just like, damn. So if Zach Wilson could have just been average,
If he could have been Jimmy Garoppolo, Aaron Rodgers would be retired.
you know what I mean? Like, yeah, yeah, the Jets would have been giving Kansas City fits. You know what I mean? Like with that defense, it would have been great to see. So, I'm excited. Football's here. We got college football coming up in a couple of weeks as well. Getting ready for Florida State, LSU, of course. AP Top 25 came out today. So I wanted to give you a few teams, just some quick thoughts real quick, because, we make the jokes every year about like, here they go with the Notre Dame thing again, and here they go with the Texas thing again. So like,
Yeah, they go with the SEC, putting 8 teams in the top 25.
so
So
so so this is
all
what
these
I
teams have 6 wins over ranked teams.
this is what I don't understand. I don't understand how they pick and choose, because most top 25s are like, hey, Georgia's automatically number one, two-time national champion in a row, top 2 or 3 recruiting classes, and then somebody like me is going to be like, but they got a new quarterback, like, you know what I mean, that we ain't never seen play, running backs, all that stuff, like lost Ringo, all that good stuff, So obviously Georgia's number one, But as I go through the top 25, I'm looking at this and I'm like, so Penn State, number 7, new quarterback, you know, uh, Tennessee, Hendon Hooker's gone. Number 12. I keep going. I keep scrolling. Wisconsin, number 19. Oklahoma, number 20. And I'm like, Oklahoma finished 6 and 7 last year, first of all. So, like, I don't want to do because last year shouldn't matter. It's a new year. But what did a 6 and 7 team do
To improve
to
themselves.
be number 20 right now?
They wear burgundy and white, and they play in Norman,
Hey,
Oklahoma.
to be fair,
That's it.
it's actually crimson and cream. And then number
Call it what you
20,
want.
number 23, Texas A&M.
And they were sub 500,
Didn't make a
but
bowl
they
game.
they bought other recruits. Like I
Number
said,
tw-
we talked about this last year, just in a regular conversation pre-podcast. It's it's a business. I know it's a nonprofit, but it's a profitable nonprofit, if that makes any sense to people. It's set up like we talked about it. It was a couple years ago with Cincinnati, and Houston. I think Houston had one loss. Cincinnati was like 8-0. Houston was like 7-1 because it was probably like the middle of the season. You and I were talking, and Houston was ranked either 23 or not ranked at all. And Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Texas A&M, all these other schools were ranked somewhere between like 16 and 25 or something like that. And I'm like, they set it up that way so Georgia, Alabama, whoever they want out of SEC, when they play these teams and they want to put them
the
the college
playoff.
football playoff,
Yeah.
they can say they have 6 wins over ranked opponents, and Cincinnati only has 2.
Well,
But
and
even though Cincinnati, like when they played Houston, Houston had one loss. I think it was like they were like something like 10-1, and Cincinnati was 11-0 when they played. Something along those lines. It was like they should have been higher, but you stack it up to where your teams that you want to eventually be in the Final Four have the case.
well,
I personally think they shouldn't do it until after the first 4 games.
I agree
You
with
shouldn't
that.
get a rank
Or
until
at the
1
very
October.
least, I've always said like maybe 6 because so this is the reason why. I'm gonna give you this real quick and then I'm gonna say what I was gonna say. So when you look at like Michigan's schedule, for example, so Michigan's ranked number 2 right now. They got 2 first place votes. Georgia got 60. but
I
looking
like
at
I like people go against the mold.
but looking at Michigan's schedule here, right? So you said first 4 games, right? This is Michigan's first 4 games this season. All at home
Makes
against
sense.
East Carolina,
Yeah.
UNLV,
Hmm.
Bowling Green,
Tough games, man.
and Rutgers.
Yo, that's gonna be a tough game to watch as a Rutgers fan.
Hold up. This is just indulge me for a second. So those are the first 4 games, right? So then their first road game is at Nebraska. Then they go to Minnesota for the Little Brown Jug game. They come back home for Indiana, go to East Lansing to play Sparty, come back home for Purdue. Then they go to Penn State, at Maryland, Ohio State. So they automatically 8-0, you know what I mean? Or, 9-0 maybe.
They're 10-2 at worst,
Yeah, you know what I
just
mean? And
because of the
I don't
way the
even got to
schedule
see
is
a
set up.
snap. I don't even got to see a snap. But what I was going to say was, yeah, I remember there was a year where Bama was like on the edge. Like there was they weren't in just yet. So it was like a debate between, I believe it was them and Ohio State, maybe. And so what happened was they had beat Fresno State early in the season.
Correct.
One of those like, hey, we got this team coming to our place. We're going to smack them. Blah blah blah. You're going to call us dominant. So Fresno State all season had not been in the rankings. So then, of course, they won the Mountain West. Won the title game, and they crept in at number 24. And it was like Bama went from like 3 ranked wins to 4 ranked wins. So it was like, yo, you got to let them in. You know what I mean? Like, so that's the thing that bothers me because, like,
They
the SEC,
have to sell out NFL stadiums for 2 college teams playing on a neutral site. You got like I think up here, the Philly Stadium, so Lincoln, the Link, and MetLife in East Rutherford, probably like 70,000 each. So if you have a bowl game here, which I never do because it's so cold, and it's you know Utah versus Michigan, I don't know if you selling 70,000 Michigan and Utah fans to get them to Philly. So you got to ensure that the schools that are going to these bowl games at neutral sites, you can sell the down south because it's going to be an SEC school, like a Louisiana school is going to be in it. So LSU is going to be in it. Mississippi school is going to be in it. So you can sell games out at the Superdome because people getting to Mississippi from Mississippi to Louisiana, not that big a deal.
right?
People getting to Georgia from Florida, not that big a deal. You can sell those out. Miami might be a stretch to sell out, but I think that stadium is only like 60,000 seats, like the NFL stadium. I don't think because it's not a
Well, that's why
big
you
foot.
got to
It
have
should be a
your.
bigger football market, but it is way at the bottom of Florida.
Well, that's why like when it's not a playoff game and it's just like the regular Orange Bowl. Back in the day, you had like ACC against Big 12 or something. So, you would have like Florida State against Nebraska, or you would have like Miami against Nebraska. Sometimes you had Notre Dame and Colorado. So, like, you were still able to sell it out because of the names involved.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
but
So,
if you're trying to play a game, if you're trying to play a championship game in Jerry World, that's 100,000 seats. You need 2 schools that are going to buy 50,000
you need to
tickets.
match up Bama with Cincinnati so Cincinnati don't get there.
You can't because you can't fill it. You can't fill a stadium. You got to get Bama in Oklahoma.
You know what I mean? Like,
Bama in Oklahoma, you're gonna have standing room only tickets at that
yeah.
game. But like when Utah played Alabama in the Sugar Bowl, I think it was the Sugar Bowl. They were playing in Louisiana. Utah ended up winning, but there's only like 12,000 Utah fans there. The rest was Bama and just other Southern football fans.
Right.
It was like one section. It was all red. That was
Probably a
it.
bunch of LSU fans just to hate on Bama.
Listen,
You know what
whatever
I'm
happened, it worked.
saying?
Shout out to Utah, 13-0,
but you,
national
but you,
champs, 2008,
that's right.
2009 season.
That's right. But so here's your top 10 for those of you who have not seen this poll. So we're gonna go from 10 to 1. Washington, my cousin Clemens, Florida State, Penn State, Trojangelis, better known as USC, LSU, and then your top 4: Alabama, Ohio State with 1 first place vote, Michigan with 2 first place votes, and then Georgia with 60. So I want to know who was that person that gave Ohio State first place vote, because they're bringing in a new quarterback too,
Somebody that write for the Columbus Sentinel or something like
you,
that.
you
The
know, so
Columbus Dispatch.
yeah, there you go.
Whatever.
That's the one.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's like something like that. I mean, you can make the argument that the new quarterback thing does hurt you, but Georgia just has their defensive concept works, and they put players, and so I guarantee you, there's another dude that is either built like or runs like Jordan Davis or Jalen Carter that's going to line up as a 3 technique
Or what's my little
for
dude,
Georgia this year.
Nakobe Dean? Well, that's why,
It's gonna be they're just gonna put the same type of defense right back on the field. And yes, Stetson Bennett being 3-4 years older than most of the defensive starters that he's throwing against probably helped. But it wasn't like he was 25 years old and 6'5", 235. He still was
well,
like
how's
6 foot 210.
speaking of Stetson Bennett, how's that for a preseason takeaway? You know what I'm saying? Like he just looked like a winner out there. But it's just one of those things where it's like Georgia and Ohio State will probably be there when the dust settles. Like they'll be probably top 8ish at least when we get to like week 11 or whatever in college football. But
That
that's
could be
always
one too.
but that's always been my argument is that if you know or you think that they're going to end up there anyway,
Why not wait to release it?
well, why do they have to be number one right now? You know what I mean? Because then if Ohio State goes out here and loses to somebody like Nebraska or whoever, Penn State, they just gonna get called overrated anyway. Which they
Well, that
probably
happened to
are.
Michigan when they lost to Appalachian State. 'Cause I think Michigan was 5. Excuse me.
Yeah, they were number 5, and Appalachian State came in there and
But then they
did
lost
the
again
thing.
the
They
next
lost
week,
to Oregon. Yep,
and then they were
and
out of the top 25. So they did recognize their mistake. Like,
no,
okay,
no, but my point is like if you're Georgia, you know what I mean? Like say hypothetically, they got, new quarterback, all that stuff we just talked about. What's wrong with putting Georgia at 4 or 5, maybe 6, you know what I mean? And then they go undefeated or whatever, lose one game, they gonna work their way back up to the cream of the crop and top anyway. So it's not as if you starting them at 6 is going to keep them out of the playoffs.
because yes, having a dynamic quarterback. I mean, we talked a lot about quarterbacks with our football analysis tonight
Like, why is Bama 4 outside of Nick Saban being their coach?
because they probably have, like I said, they have the top recruiting class. They
That
are the
and a lot of those dudes ain't
SEC.
played yet.
Listen, I know football is a tough sport, but when you have that level of talent just literally coming in all the time, and your coaching staff has been there for as long as they have, and you're not gonna forget how do I work in this 6'4", 290-pound 19-year-old? Like you just know where to put
Yeah,
him.
yeah,
You know where to put, like, yeah, there's some safeties they might not get the cover 3, cover 4 concepts, and you're gonna have to work them in. But in the meantime, I got, 1,200 pounds of defensive line off the rip. So off the snap, I am the Alabama defensive front, the Georgia defensive front, LSU defensive front. It's just those guys are just bigger. They're just bigger. They have the facilities that get them even bigger. So these guys are showing up out of high school 6'4", 6'5". I mean, like I've looked every once in a while just for entertainment. I look through Alabama's roster and just sorted by height. It's ridiculous the size, like, and the way they get them from. They have guys who are like 6'5", 240 linebackers, 19-year-old from Hawaii. Like this dude is a red shirt So you got a red shirt kid from Hawaii who went from like Tua. I mean, I guess Tua created his pipeline, but they'll have a backup that's you know a freshman or a sophomore, red shirt freshman, red shirt sophomore, 6'5", 260, 6'5", 240, defensive lineman, 6'4", 300 pounds, just waiting on other guys to get drafted or graduate.
From Cali.
And they from California. They got 5-star quarterbacks from Utah down there just sitting behind quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So like they just funnel out this talent. It's like Willy Walking a chocolate factory. They just keep putting out these chocolate bars. So it's like I I don't like ranking them early, but if you're going to do it, then just keep it simple. Like, don't try to give me Tulane because they had a good run last year. I get it, but they're not going to match up with
Number
Ohio
23
State.
Tulane to you, buddy.
Yeah, so it's like I get it, and on top of that, like it's until somebody comes to the mountaintop and pulls a sword out of the stone like King Arthur and slays some of these guys from the SEC or these ACC schools. Like you see what happened with Clemson. Like they had their run with Deshaun Watson, and they came back with Trevor Lawrence, and it just you can't maintain it. You got to give a nod to the teams that can continue to maintain it. LSU is like a sine wave. They're up, they're down, they're up, they're down. So they might have a 8-4 year and then come back and now they're 10-2, and then they might have this miraculous 13-0 year where they win it all. So they're just one of those teams. Ole Miss will start off great, 6-0, 6-1, and then just kind of tail off at the end, finish your season nine
Well,
and
I'm
four,
interested
something
because
like
they
that.
get Bama. They get Bama early this year. New quarterback, new offensive coordinator, new defensive coordinator, which Bama has done before. So that's not like the biggest news. But they right now on August 14th, we publicly don't necessarily know who the starter is going to be. We saw Milrow play last year, fumble a lot. They brought in a quarterback from Notre Dame because they brought the offensive coordinator in, but that quarterback was out for the season for Notre Dame last year. So like this is the first time that I feel like
Does that cheek in Alabama armor?
well like Bama had like they've switched out quarterbacks before, and you were like you said you were just like yo 5-star put them in, you know what I mean? But this is the first time that I feel like I'm not confident that they have the guy on their roster. Like
Yeah,
so
but how confident are you that the wide receivers 10 times a game are going to be 2 yards wide open?
well we'll see. They got Texas in game 2 or 3, so we'll see.
So if that offensive line stands pat, like there's some stats. I remember you watch an Alabama game and they'll put a stat on the board
Yeah.
and it'll say something like this guy hasn't given up a quarterback hit in 866 snaps. Just like just crazy numbers for like every offensive lineman. That like one dude went out there. Granted, it was the last snap of the game. He had a torn ACL. He was like, I got to get this last snap. He jogged out there with a 20. Like, so their offensive lineman is so good. He could jog out there with no ACL in his leg, still get a good snap in. That granted, he took a knee. But they have these crazy stats, like haven't given up a sack since he was a freshman, and he's like a senior, or a guy hasn't given up hasn't missed a block in this many, or he has like 12 pancakes. Just these crazy stats. So it was like,
Yeah.
if they still have that, then whatever quarterback you get in there is going to be able to hit his drop, and someone's going to be open over the top with some deep crossing routes, some crazy. They're going to be two,
Yeah.
3 yards wide open, and maybe he misses it the first time, but Bill O'Brien's going to be on the sideline. He's going to, or not Bill, but like someone's going to show him
Yeah, they
the
got Tommy
Microsoft
Reese
Surface
now from
ad.
Notre Dame. Yeah.
So they'll be like, yeah, listen, man, hey, we're gonna run that play again. You see here, see this 4-3 wide receiver we have out here on this go route?
Just throw it
Yeah,
up.
he's gonna be wide open again.
He'll get under it.
This 18-year-old corner that they got out of this 3-star corner they got out of Ohio, yeah, he can't cover him. So we're gonna call that again on first down. So just let that thing go.
Ole Miss got to get Bama one of these years, man. They got to get them one of these years, and But I will say, ooh, Tennessee, they gonna be waiting for y'all. They gonna be waiting for y'all. They gonna be
They gonna
waiting to get their hands on Joe Milton.
and this is the thing that happens with like I'm not gonna I give credit to Colin Cowherd. He called it the Tom Brady, Bill Belichick effect, the Nick Saban effect, the LeBron effect, where good teams good teams will have success, and then they can't beat like like that guy, and then blow up their team, thinking like this is the reason why we can't beat. Like, no, the reason you can't beat this combination is because that guy is that much better. You might get him one time. Like Nick Saban, I don't know how many coaches have a decent record against Nick Saban.
You see that, y'all? Like, even in the offseason, this man still taking shots at the
Listen,
Toronto Raptors for no reason.
listen. It was the whole. It was
See, I didn't say
people
what
went
you thought I
west.
was going to say. I didn't say what you thought I was going to
But it's like, but if you think about it, if you think about how many years, like Alabama had that stronghold on the SEC for a while until Kirby Smart got to Georgia, and because like Mark Rick was one of those guys, he had talented teams. He had AJ Green, Murray,
Just couldn't
no
win the big
Sean
one.
Marino, Sony Michelle. Couldn't get past Alabama. Then Kirby Smart gets there. He gets, has his rough patches, whatever the case may be, or rough. Not winning the championship is rough at SEC. And then he was like, I got it. I got the formula. I got the old quarterback, and I got the young warthogs up front, just mauling people. This is how I'm gonna beat these guys. Texas A&M tried it, but like Jimbo Fisher, he's trying to rush it, and that's gonna cause him to potentially lose his job because you're trying to overdo it to try to beat the guy that's been dominating your era for so long that a, a school like Tennessee, they probably think they're going to beat Alabama again this year. Alabama's going to beat the brakes off Tennessee,
Well, to be fair,
and it's going to be in Bryant Denny,
yes, in
right?
Tuscaloosa. Yep. To be fair,
You're not even going to be able to wear orange in the state of Alabama.
to be fair, you know, A&M beat Bama 2 years ago, and last year Jimbo gave the play to Alabama, so they lost. Did you remember that? The
He said it too loud, right? Like some of the
yeah.
Alabama players heard it.
The defender said that he called out the receiver or something, like, so they knew where the ball was going to go, and they were just at the 2. So you know what I mean? That would have been something if Jimbo would have beat Nick Saban 2 years in a row. But now I'm interested because, like, we talked about it. He's got Bobby Petrino over there now. So when they play Bama this year, back in College Station, where my baby gonna be going to college, so I'm gonna try to be up in there. But the point being is that this game is gonna be epic either way, because either Jimbo and Petrino gonna put something together and beat Saban, or that's gonna be the game where Saban, Fisher and Petrino explode. Is somebody
And
getting
people are
gone?
fired, and people
This
gonna be
town ain't
gone.
big enough for the both of us.
People are, and that's what happens. That's what happens prematurely. People
Can't stay the course.
lose their job because it's like, listen, instead of being like, you know what, we get it.
Can't
This
stay
guy
the
can't
course.
coach forever. But it's like, nope, you out of here.
Well,
We're gonna
right
get this
now,
new hot office coordinator out of
well,
Western Michigan. He's gonna come down here and change this now.
well, at the end of last season, Jimbo's buyout was 85 million. So so get your oil money together. I
Yeah,
think it drops
somebody
down. I think it drops down to about 78 this year. You know what I
somebody
mean?
got a
So
check ready.
you know what I mean. So, like, hey,
There's
if
4 corporations right now. They got a check ready. Like, listen,
let
I'll put
let A and
18
M
million in.
let A
Let
and M
A
go
and M
five
start
and
off
seven
one.
again. Let
Oh
them go
yeah,
5-7 again. Let them lose to Miami. Let them lose to Miami, and we gonna hear them. We gonna hear them. You know what I mean? Especially they beat Miami last year. They lose to Miami, and you gonna hear all kinds of talk until they play Bama, and it's either a 3-point win or a 3-point loss. They're gonna buy in again until they
they
lose to
go.
somebody like Mississippi State or something, and then everybody's going to go like, "Yo, get this dude out of here right now!" Like, do not pass go, do not collect $200.
They're giving them enough money, enough NIL money, enough contracts, enough chargers,
Just
and
signed the number one recruiting class two
Durangos
years ago. These guys are, what is it? Coming of age. I done came up, put my life on the
on the
line.
line.
You know what I'm saying? It's time. You know
It's
what I'm saying?
time to deliver. But like I said, it's a tough conference, and they only added tougher teams, so it's gonna be a gauntlet. I mean, iron sharpen
Yeah.
iron, but it's gonna be a
Yeah.
gauntlet. You're gonna have to either understand like, hey, we have a team that can win this conference, or we don't.
And I got to get to that A&M Texas game next year, wherever it's at. I don't know if it's in Austin or College Station yet, but I'm trying to be up in there.
See, you get a lot of good college football. See, when I get up here, I get a lot of
You
good
got
NFL
Rutgers.
matchups. I got a lot of good NFL matchups. Philly's right there. East Rutherford's not that far, so Jets or Giants game is pretty much every week.
Come on.
Tickets are reasonable.
Come
Then
on.
if I
You
want
got
to go down to
Rutgers.
Baltimore,
You got Rutgers in Penn State.
Penn State is far. Penn State's it's 6-7 hours west. It's near Pittsburgh. If I'm going that far, I'm just gonna go to Ohio State because it's pretty much the same. Because you got to go up like.
Yeah, they played pretty early this year too. So like speaking of which, real quick since you brought it up, we'll look at Rutgers' schedule real quick before we get out of here. Saying let's find you a game.
People love when I see so many people like Iowa played here last year. Is everyone's walking around wearing Iowa gear?
Yeah. So let's see. Let's find you a game to go to this year. You know what I mean? Like we got to get you into Rutgers. You know what I'm saying? That's so sad. I type in Rutgers football schedule and like the basketball schedule came up. Like nobody respects Rutgers. You know what I'm saying? So let's see. They got Northwestern. They go
At home.
Yeah, they
We know
go
home
to,
games.
they got Temple. How about this one? Virginia Tech. There you go. September 16th. Rutgers and Virginia Tech.
That's interesting. I'll look into that.
They go to Michigan. They play Wagner. Go to Wisconsin. They got Sparty coming up on October 14th. Go to Indiana, and this is the one. They got the Buckeyes coming in on November 4th.
That ticket's going to be ridiculous.
Then they go to Iowa, go to Penn State, then they close out at home against the Terps. So there you go.
November 4th. Let me check my schedule. I might have to.
Oh, Money Mike. Let me check my Palm Pilot.
see how that goes. That might be interesting. That might be a game to watch.
Yeah, that might be it. But folks, we are Sports Reports as Ordered. He is the one and only Mr. Logical. Yeah. I am just regular 2-5, regular Joe. We love you. We appreciate you. Thanks for all the support. Keep following, keep liking, keep subscribing, word of mouth, all that good stuff.
Page, share it to anybody you know.
All that. You know what I'm saying?
Because your grandma, send it to your grandpa, send it to your co-workers, everybody.
You know what I'm saying? Send it to people with a black man fetish, whatever you got to do. You know what I'm saying?
People you like, people you don't like.
Whatever you got to do. We appreciate it all. Like, review, subscribe because it's free. And you know what else is free? The love that we have for you. And we're out.